like, what's the word where you assign a non-human thing human characteristics?
Anthropomorphize. Yeah, they're kind of creatures, for sure. So this is a fruit bowl. So this is a pineapple, and I don't know if you can see there's stitching. A bunch of grapes. This is just made from tubes of scrap paper that I had in the studio. I've got bins. There's some stash. Can you see that down below? So I'll cut up things and I'll just have them stacked in here. Stuff that winds up being this kind of stuff that I also make. This is a plant, a sansevieria, or they call it mother-in-law's tongue. And it's scraps of thread from the sewing machine. And I just wrapped it around some, I don't know, pennies.
What is the whole contraption behind it?
I couldn't tell you, I just kind of took some pieces of drawings and made this wire thing and a note to myself. I don't know if there's any such thing as like automatic sculpture. I don't know, kind of like just letting the spirits take over,
What are you thinking when you're making stuff?
I'm actually trying to not think. I'm trying to not overthink. I'm trying to not think that thing out of existence. When I'm in a flow, it's like I'm just in a trance, So it's just a wave that's like sustaining, and these are often just short bursts. They're short bursts where I feel like I'm like gliding, but it's pretty awesome. And it's taken a lot of work just to get back to having those moments.
I always kind of think of it like when you need a fireman, you need the fireman or you're dead. If you need an artist, you could always kind of just say you didn't know the difference and hire someone who's not an artist. And most of the time people don't know the difference and don't hire artists. How is it that it can be so elusive and invisible to the vast majority of people? Well, so then what is the value we provide?
We show up. I mean, that's what artists do. Artists show up. We show up however we're needed. And that can take many forms. I've spent most of my life trying to develop skills to put food on the table. But, I also take great pride in that, I can show up as my artist self. And there's so many things about this sensibility. I think an openness, a willingness to take risks and try things, not just checking off the boxes, problem solving in ways that, non-artists may not see. I also feel that what I send out into the world, I do want it to be authentic. It's really easy to make art that looks like art. It looks like a painting, or it looks like a drawing, or it looks like how art is supposed to look. But to really try and find something, for me, radical vulnerability, I think, is the way to go. So I would say, how radically vulnerable can I get? And so that's always like a practice. So pushing myself to really come up with something that I might be too shy to show people, like how far can I push this? So I'm almost embarrassed that I made this because it is not something that people have seen before, or it might not be acceptable. How often do we open up ourselves like that? That is why I feel like that's such an important part of my practice, is this, tapping into that vulnerability, because that's the authentic part. So this was kind of a breakthrough because I kind of resisted using my stash of fabric for a really long time. And then suddenly I realized, why don't I just weave together all these scrap pieces? And it was kind of the most obvious thing to do. And I don't know why I resisted it for so long.
So I've been hoarding this since like 2005 or something. So I'm using a lot of materials that I've just acquired over the years. So I just kind of took this pillow that I had and just started, weaving it and encasing it. And then, of course, I had to give it feet.
So I would say that one thing that has really stuck with me is basically assemblage, I think working sculpturally with fabric, like fabric has stayed with me this whole time. It's tactile, I can make sculptures that I put on my body or carry around. And, once I learned that I could make sculptures from fabric, so really just putting together anything, and then seeing what happens when you throw paint on top of fabric is really fun. Combining it with other stuff that's not supposed to go with fabric, like wood or metal, and stuffing them. I love stuffing things. So I used to have a clothing line called Feral Child. You actually walked in my very first fashion show, Dennis, if you remember.
Your very first one?
Yeah, that was 1999. And I didn't even have a name for what I was doing then. And that opportunity came about because I was working at a place called Franklin Furnace, run by Martha Wilson, who was invited to curate some artists for this show at Exit Art in Soho.
Right.
And she gave me a chance. Like I had never done anything on that scale before. So I feel that I got really lucky in that here are these people who have been working in the New York art world for decades already, and they were totally taking a chance on me. I had never put on a performance before, but I was just making clothes. And I realized people got really engaged with it, and it was exciting. So it was really through the medium of fashion that I could quickly get my vision out into the world, but I was also kind of like making sculptures and stuff and doing other things. I went to grad school maybe the year after that, and that was such a different world. I mean, I shouldn't have been shocked, but that was a very conservative program, very much geared towards a commercial art world. And just so it was a real challenge for me. And it took time after grad school to find myself again. I graduated and then 9/11 happened. So that also was formative, like the urgency of being an artist, shifted for me. And I really felt that the medium of clothing was universal.
I have these shoes, you could either hang these on the wall or kind of wear them around your neck. Cool, Most of this work is made in the last 3 to 5 years. I mean, the time is kind of like whizzed by. So I kind of have to have everything out so that I remember I want to go back to it or do more in that vein.
Do you make a whole bunch of one thing at one time, or do you kind of go back and forth between series?
I definitely go back and forth between things. It's really hard for me to work in series, but I'm really trying to really keep with an idea and push it. So this is kind of related, wouldn't you say? This might have been a Taiwanese dry cleaning bag. This is that kind of cellophane twine that you also get in Taiwan. Even stuff like this, right?
Whenever I see anything made by you, I always smile. I don't know if that's what you want or
I can't tell you what to feel, and I don't have a specific agenda for how I want people to feel when they encounter these things that I make, but I do want, that's my little imprint on the world. You know, I want people to know I exist, or I existed, or that I have my own voice. I also want my things to remind you that you also exist and you matter and your voice matters, you know? So it's like kind of trying to have a little conversation and appreciate these individual moments that you can't put a finger on.